So I entitled today's sermon, A Future Filled with Hope. And some of you are saying to yourself, is our boy James delusional? Because it doesn't feel that way. Maybe for some, but for a lot of us, it is a moment of uncertainty. The church doesn't look the same as it once did. All the things we once did and imagined are not exactly the same as they once were. The institutions that we thought we could trust seem to be coming apart all around us, and we are in the midst of turmoil. To put it as wisely, Felicity said to us in the children's sermon this morning, we are afraid. Now, into that picture, enters this story about Jeremiah. And lest you think that sometimes the biblical story is just nice little pretty stories we tell each other, this is real. This is real. I'm going to give you just a brief, because I know you live for it, brief history lesson, because you're like, oh, James is going to teach us some history. Woohoo! Yes, because, it's my gig. I get to do it, and you're stuck listening to it, I guess. Maybe not. So, sometime back, maybe you'll remember, maybe you won't remember, David solidified the kingdom of Israel into one big kingdom. 12 tribes, one big kingdom, makes Jerusalem the capital. His son Solomon takes over. Solomon was wise in the beginning, but man, he went astray. Really badly astray, so badly astray that after he creates all these tensions in his family, and after his death, the northern and the southern kingdoms are split. So when we think of Israel, we tend to think of all 12 tribes, but 10 of the tribes are now in the northern kingdom, and 2 tribes are in the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom is still called Israel. The southern kingdom is called Judah. In 722, the Assyrians, this is not going to be a test, just so you know. Even though I'm giving you a little history, there's no test. Next week, I'm not going to be passing out pencils, number 2 pencils. There aren't going to be circles to fill out. This will be helpful, or maybe it won't. If not, just ignore the first 5 minutes of the sermon, and you'll be okay. So, the Assyrians attack the northern kingdom and essentially take them all into slavery. So you've heard of the 10 lost tribes of Israel? Those are the 10 lost tribes of Israel. The Assyrians take over. Fast forward about 110, 120 years after 722 BC. Now we're at 597. The Babylonians, maybe you've heard of them. King Nebuchadnezzar comes in and beats up on the southern kingdom, Judah. And he puts in a puppet king, Zedekiah. Zedekiah, whose real name is Mattaniah. But the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar wants to show he's powerful enough to change your name. So he changes the name. We're not going to call you Mattaniah anymore. We're going to make you King Zedekiah. And guess what? I'm going to be your boss. He was a pretend king, kind of a vassal king. All of his power came from Babylon. And as long as he behaved himself and kept the southern kingdom, Judah, behaving itself, everything was going to be super happy. Jeremiah has a job. Jeremiah, the entire book, he's called the weeping prophet for a reason. He never wanted the gig. He did not want to talk to people and tell them, things are not looking good. Things are not looking good. I don't want to tell you this, but they look really, really bad. You need to behave. Zedekiah gets so tired of hearing his stuff because it's undermining his rule by fear as the kingdom is coming apart. Jeremiah even says, don't you rebel against Nebuchadnezzar. Don't rebel, because we will be smashed. At least we still have the temple in Jerusalem right now. Don't rebel. Don't stand up. Guess what Zedekiah does? He joins with the Egyptians, and boom, they decide they're going to rebel. They're going to go against the Babylonians. The story is not pretty after that. Zedekiah is so tired of hearing Jeremiah, he imprisons him and shuts him down. The kingdom is coming apart, and even as today's text is written, chapter 32 of Jeremiah, Jerusalem is besieged. It's surrounded by the Babylonians. They're running out of food. They're running out of water. Zedekiah is nothing at all like his father, Josiah. Josiah was the first faithful king after a long time. He did right in the sight of the Lord. Zedekiah, not so much. Zedekiah did whatever worked to make the most people distracted enough not to get rid of him. So as the institutions failed, and as the world comes apart around him, everything that he knew and thought he could trust falls apart. The Lord says to him, do this. Buy a piece of property. Buy a piece of property? You know, I'm in prison, dude. Are you listening? Are you watching what's going on? Maybe you were taking a nap, but I'm in prison. Well, I'll send someone along. So his cousin comes and says, I've got a piece of land. You know, it's like if somebody tried to sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. What's the point? You know, it's just not good. You're not really going to have it. We're getting ready to be exiled, Jeremiah included. There's already been one exile 10 years ago. Now, there's getting ready to be the destruction of Jerusalem, all because Zedekiah didn't listen to Jeremiah and listen to all the false prophets. It's coming down around him, and Jeremiah hears a word from the Lord, buy a piece of property from your cousin. And Jeremiah does. It's like it's like playing hopscotch, I suppose, on the deck of the Titanic. You know, what good is it going to be? It's going to be under the water pretty soon. You know, I'm going to keep this deck chair as it goes down. As everything Jeremiah knew fell apart, Jeremiah did the most foolish thing you've ever imagined. He bought a piece of property in a land that was about to be condemned. It was about to not even be in that land anymore. And he doesn't just do it as an empty sign. He wants it to be remembered that he did it, so he does it completely legally. He gets witnesses. He weighs out 17 shekels of silver. I don't know how much that is, but it's 17 shekels worth. And gives it, pays it and then he has his scribe, Baruch, whose name means blessing, seal it in a clay pot and go and bury it. So it will still be there. It will still be there even after they're defeated, after they're destroyed, after everything has come completely apart. This is the destruction of the temple that they have worshiped at. This is everything that had meaning for them. I think of land as something we can own and go visit, live in. We might have a nice house if we want, or, perhaps a piece of property. Linda and I have a cabin in the woods of West Virginia that we, about 4.5 acres of land. We think it's really kind of cool to go off there, sit on the front porch, drink coffee, watch the sun rise or set. I don't think we're ever awake when the sun rises, and we are usually when the sun sets, but it's just a very peaceful place to be. Very peaceful place to be. We just think of it as a piece of land, and probably one that we won't live in retirement, although that's why we bought it originally. It's just a piece of land. But to the folks of the culture, this was the promised land. This was their inheritance. This was God's promise to them. And the promise was being broken. Now, admittedly, they had done plenty to bring the end to the promise themselves. They had not been particularly faithful. Their heritage had slipped away. But Jeremiah says this isn't the end. It looks like it. It even feels like it sometimes. I'm afraid it could be. But he's instructed to buy a piece of land in a place that will never be his. You remember the old proverb, when is the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? Now. Hope is something that requires a kind of trust in something bigger than the things that we see falling apart around us. Corrupt leaders. Look at Zedekiah. Not even his name. Lies all the time. He's fearful. He uses fear as a tool to control all those around him. And yet into the midst of that, God speaks a word. Buy a piece of land. Because there will be a time when land is bought and sold again. There will be a time when your planting matters. Fast forward to today. I talk to people all the time who feel hopeless about the world in which we live. It'd be hard not to. Fascism is on the rise around the world. Before my father died, one of our most interesting conversations, he said, I fought in World War II so there wouldn't be fascism in the world. I would have given my life for that. Yet we see it on the rise. Do we just give up? Do we look at Jeremiah and say, what a foolish man? What a foolish, foolish, foolish man. Or do we trust in God, something bigger than any institution? Do we buy a field? And what does that field look like? For us at Doolin Church, what does the field look like? Where do we invest? Do we invest in our youth? We've been trying so far this year. It's been a little up and down. Some days it works, some days it's not working. Kickoff was great. After that, the next couple of, maybe we're doing, children's ministry, trying to figure out how to do that, trying to be faithful about that. There are those kinds of pieces. How do we be faithful? Where do we buy a piece of land? Where do we put our trust? Can we believe that investing now will make a difference in the future? That God is a God of now, but also a God of the future. Can we believe that? Because it's hard to believe sometimes, especially when things are scary and they stink. What will we do and how will we do it? What is the field God's calling you to buy? What is the field God's calling us to buy? How will we proclaim hope to those who feel hopeless in the world? Especially when some of the people who feel hopeless are us. What field is God calling us to buy? Where will we plant? Sure, the best time to plant was 10 years ago, was 10, 20 years ago, that tree. But here we are today. Is there a tree we can plant that we might never be under the shelter of? We might not be under its branches. We may never pull the apples from its branches. It's an apple tree. Or pears if it's a pear tree. Or whatever kind of tree it is. We may never pull those. But what hope will we plant now for the future of the world in which we live? Because if we lose hope, people of faith, people who follow Jesus, who went all the way to the cross because of love for us. If we lose faith, if we lose hope, if we can't stand, what will happen? What will happen to this world God has entrusted to our care? So the question I want us to consider, think about it, pray about it this week. It's your homework assignment. What field is God calling you to buy? Where are you to invest in a place that looks hopeless? What is God calling us as a church, Doolin United Methodist Church, here in the center of the tiny city? Remember the tiny David against Goliath? What is God calling us to plant, to buy, to be in this community? Jeremiah's an interesting dude. And he does the most foolish thing I've ever seen. But he has hope. Can we have that hope? Can we have that hope?